Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd just like to read to you what I've found on some of the media sites about the savage reviews that they've been giving in unfairness to the Power Rangers reboot and that I'll leave for the links to the original source materials down below. Start off with this article. According to a report, a sequel to the Power Rangers movie is unlikely, following its underwhelming performance at the box office. A sequel to the Power Rangers movie is reportedly unlikely to be given the go-ahead due to its underwhelming performance at the box office. The Israelite directed reboot of the popular TV series was released earlier this year, but modest ticket sales in China mean a sequel now appears unlikely, according to the Den of Geek website. The movie, which starred the likes of Dacre Montgomery, Naomi Scott, Bryan Cranston, and Elizabeth Banks, earned as much as $85 million at the US box office, with a further $50 million being earned in other territories. But the film failed to garner much attention in China, which usually tentpole releases that gets a China theatrical release usually do pretty well, large in numbers. And which goes on to make other films in the series. But this all stems to Paul Feig's Ghostbusters. That was refused a theatrical release in China. Even they nearly came up with the alternate title called Super Die Team or whatever it was. And sadly, due to the underwhelming condemnation the film had towards its fans, it bombed. And that was all down to the stupidity of Paul Feig and Amy Pascal. That went out all the way to savage the fans and that who disliked the trailers and that. But Power Rangers 2017 did not disrespect its fans. In fact, it won quite a lot of fans, both young and old. And some of them was not Power Rangers fans themselves. That was welcome to the film and that to get them interested into the well-beloved franchise and that. And goes on, which has become a critical market for the movie industry of recent years, because it can breathe life into movies that fail to connect the attention of the United States audiences. Warcraft, however, was a live-action film based on the World of Warcraft series. Did make a moderate success in China, but it failed to connect in the United States. However, in China, which the film did do well, which has considerably boosted the prospect of there being a sequel. On the other hand, Power Rangers opened to a disappointing 1.2 million, or I should say 102 million on its first day, thereby reducing the chances of there being a follow-up movie. The film is not released in Japan until later end of next month. Another crucial overseas market, which films usually do very well, they're banking on Power Rangers to do well in China, the home of hentai and anime. That Power Rangers was loosely based off a 80s Japanese show called Super Sentai, which, like I said in previous videos, they used stock footage for scenes in the North American version of the show in the 90s and that, which they went on to do their own scenes without the aid of stock footage and that. However, but it's thought highly unlikely it will be sufficiently successful there for a sequel to be demanded. Power Rangers has already surpassed its budget in terms of box office earnings, but the movie has reportedly fallen short of the Lionsgate pre-sale hopes. What's more, Power Rangers, which is the first blockbuster movie to feature LGBT and an autistic superheroes, received mixed reviews from critics upon release, which centralized one of the Power Rangers being a lesbian and the character Billy Cranston, played by R.J. Seiler. His character traits is an autistic genius, and that can solve the equations at the top of his hat. That is relatable characters to the ones that portrayed in shows like The Big Bang Theory and that. That was one review from a site. This is what the Telegraph said, a UK-based media site. They labeled it Power Rangers review sadistic, ugly, incompetent. This reboot is even worse than the fantastic reboot years ago, which was a total bomb at the cinema. And this is what they said in the response. The Power Rangers are sexing. If you're wondering what they're up to nowadays, they're slut shaming too. They're also talking about the inserting cranes into bodily offices and pleasuring farmyard animals. So if you think the last one is an exaggeration, buy a ticket to 5 minutes in, you come face to action face with all the mooing and hoof stomping truth. Quote, who thought a graphical joke milking a bull would be promising to start a Power Rangers film is anyone's guess. Screenplay is credited to 5 different people. But there's no doubt it sets the tone for what to be the most flabbergasting, misconceived reboot of recent years. Never mind the 2015's Fantastic reboot, which became a mangled shadow of its cast and crew's original intentions en route to the screen. Power Rangers may be like this on purpose. 1-2 brief bursts of the theme tune aside, you sense the film constantly straining to distance itself from the original iconic show, The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers TV series. A trashy but ingenious splice and dice job in which scenes of American high school drama were grafted in onto unrelated battle sequence from a long-running Japanese superhero film. Like I said, it was called Super Sentai. Google it and you know it. It was an instant hit in 1983, and the franchise has been juggling lucratively, if less prominently, ever since. To say they made two films, the Power Rangers, the movie in '95 that came out in the same year alongside the Judge Dredd and a couple of other films, and in '97 came Power Rangers Turbo. Is continue. Clearly, the blueprint for a new film version should have been Pacific Rim Guillermo Toro's energized, joyous, multicolored kaiju smackdown from 2013. But instead, Power Rangers seem to desperately want to be chronicle the downbeat man during cult superhero filler from 2012, directed by Fant Four Sticks Josh Trank. There's a kind of logic at Lionsgate landing in Lionsgate handing directing duties to Dean Israelite, whose slight but charming 2015 debut Project Almanac unapologetically positioned itself as Chronicle with a time machine and a John Hughesian detention scene that's in the vein of the Breakfast Club. By having the characters in the detention as cliched stereotypes, it was unbelievable. Which was the first 2 acts of the 2.5 hour runtime film. Like all of them come together and band together to overcome the petty differences, which was a total cliche and overused in other films as well. United in adversity, but it's impossible to fathom why the studio decided that's what they wanted in the first place. The result is a film about heroes in rainbow colored leotards who battle giant monsters with robot dinosaurs, in which an hour and 34 minutes pass before those heroes actually get into the hero costumes and fight a bad guy. What's less rapidly explicable, still an arguably and even sadistic, is the way the film keeps pretending that they're about to before plowing its heroes into another cycle of wrestling with real life teenage issues, 16 above, and training at the behest of the great Oz like mentor Zordon, played by Bryan Cranston. To say Bryan Cranston is no stranger to starring reboots that did not fare very well. This harkens to 2012 when he starred in a reboot of Total Recall, which was based on a short story called We Remember It For You Wholesale. That starred Colin Farrell, Kate Beckinsale, and Jessica Biel, in which Jessica Biel won the worst Razzie actress reward, which the film failed to connect with the audience due to the fact it was trying to be a paled imitation to the Arnold Schwarzenegger classic in the 1990s. It failed to connect. That's why Total Recall is considerably a flop alongside RoboCop and a couple of other reboots that tried to connect with its fan base, but it didn't fare very well. And continue. Motion capture done Trumbo bad, and Alpha 5, his Bill Hader voiced the robot psychic. The five leads are also wildly irritating, and despite the heavy stress on their diverse racial backgrounds and quirky personalities, weirdly interchangeable now and again, the film cuts away to the activities of Rita Repulsa, Elizabeth Banks. To say in the film, Elizabeth Banks feels like that she's filming an hour and a half SNL skit. She lost all the originality, what film she was supposed to be filming and what character she's supposed to be playing. I know that original Rita Repulsa in the 90s version was nowhere near next to perfect. Here the Asian actress stars that have constantly lockjawed and with some other voiceover actresses doing a voice in comedic played for laughs. But what I've seen of Elizabeth Banks's performance in the Power Rangers film, I must agree with critics, it was not the best. She failed to play the villain, which was unconvincing. That this harkens back to Neil Casey. Neil Casey got a huge rap for playing the villain in Paul Feig's Ghostbusters, which he was playing. Oh, I've been bullied all my life. I'm gonna get even. La di da di da. Blah 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 blah. That old cliches and that. And the other bad criticism went to Jesse Eisenberg in Batman v Superman, where he played the paled imitation of the character Lex Luthor. To say it was portrayed well in the past by Gene Hackman and Kevin Spacey for Superman Returns. Both actors were accomplished, trained theatre actors and that did know how to act emotion and drama into and comedy into the roles. But with Jesse Eisenberg in Batman vs Superman, failed to do that. So like I continue about Elizabeth Banks, whoever casted her needs the head examined. I thought she was an unappealing villainess in a shape or form. I would like to see Rita Repulsa to play by an actress who can pull off the great villainous roles. So kind of like the likes of Sigourney Weaver and Angelina Jolie and Charlize Theron, who can all pull both the heroic and the villainous side of the persona. But with Elizabeth Banks, like I said, she feels like that she was filming an SNL skit, literally, with the Krispy Kreme gag. Yeah, no, I like that, but it's if you keep on watching it, after a while, it becomes rather forced and that. And I can continue. A witch from outer space who's terrorizing the residents of Angel Grove in her ongoing hunt for the Zeo crystals. In one of a number of scenes that may traumatize nostalgic millennials, let alone the show's primary school-age core audience, Rita is seen tearing out a tramp's teeth in silhouette, in which that was done before in John Landis's American Werewolf in London, which they had a deleted scene which David Norton's transition from human to werewolf. He lets rip the streets of London, Savagery beating the homeless and that. But did see one scene in the film where Rita Repulsa challenged Trini in a bedroom and started smacking her around. That harkens back to a scene that was quite familiar in the film Fright Night in 1985, which Sarandon did exactly the same to Billy Ragsdale, which confronted him in his room to warn him off it, and this says something like this: "You pissed me off, and now it's war. I'm gonna throw you around like a rag doll," and that. Which that scene was total cliche and total overused, and that there was nothing new to some of the scenes in the film which I've seen, which are quite familiar, and that. Yeah, there's also some called orgasmic moaning, usually when she's been engulfed by slime and bristles or whatever. And as for the Zeo crystal itself, it turns out to be buried underneath the local branch of a name brand junk food outlet called the Krispy Kreme, in which its shameful promote promoted itself when people went to see it at theatres in America. They gift out limited edition Krispy Kremes, and that, like they did with Twinkies and the Etzacooler for Ghostbusters last year. In which, quite frankly, the Twinkie and the Etzacooler was very nice. I've had it to say we never sold it in this country originally, and that, and which was great, and yeah, a discovery which ignites an objectively embarrassing frenzy of product placement. Even halfway competent action finale might have made up for much of the above. But the ugly and incomprehensible big finish we get appears to have been shot by the Hunchback of Notre Dame and edited by a monkey wearing oven gloves. And if there's a single clear shot of the dinosaurs in action in there, I must have missed it. It slapshot in the extremities, but no more so than the scenes in Zordon's ship, in which the Rangers talk about standing on footprints and watching images in severe, even though the subjects matching those descriptions simply don't feature in a computer-generated environment around them. As for Alpha 5, yeah, it says is the iconic line. And that was the review what the Telegraph said about it, in which they give it a 1-star rating. And the last one was from the Forbes site. Box office were probably not getting a Power Rangers sequel. This was a review from Scott Mendelson, the Forbes tribute and that, published on May 12, 2017. at 3 p.m. Well, this didn't go as hoped yesterday. Was the opening day in China for King Arthur, The Legend of the Sword, and Power Rangers, and both films got the butts kicked by the likes of the Guardians of the Galaxy Vol 2 that reached 68 million in 8 days. But but Bollywood Report Dingo 32 million thus far. King Arthur earned just 100.5 million on its opening day, but we knew that was coming, and it just means that the multi-film Knights of the Round Table franchise isn't meant to be. But Power Rangers is the real tragedy, earning just 100.2 million on its first day, and arguably sealing its fate. Bearing a post-theatrical miracle, it's one and done for the Power Rangers franchise. If you had told me a few years ago, not only would the live Power Rangers the movie would have turned out to in something, yeah, because it printed it off and it got cut in the bottom, and you continue. That's a pretty decent Power Rangers would nevertheless fail to spawn a viable franchise. I would have been a little shocked, but here we are. Well, as the mix was the review, Dean Israelite directed the origin story fantasy opened with the best case scenario of 40 million on opening weekend. At the end of March, it sank like a stone and will end in its dramatic run with just 85 million. And while there was a presumption overseas grosses would gross at least whatever it made in North America, if not the standard 40.60 split, that didn't happen. The Lionsgate release, which stars Dacre Montgomery, Naomi Scott, Archie Silent, Ludie Lunn, and Becky G, known as Rebecca Gomez, has barely made 50 million overseas, heading into its weekend with a horrible China debut. We're likely looking at the best case scenario around 10 million. So the Elizabeth Banks, Bryan Cranston sci-fi action would expect to find a worldwide gross of around 145 million worldwide, plus whatever it earns in Japan in 2 months from now, which is next month. On a budget of around 100 million. So while the film made make money for Lionsgate, domestic distributor and not on the hook for the whole 100 million cost. It's an overall money loser as it exits domestic theatres and enters the post-theatrical market via digital and physical media on June the 13th and on Blu-ray on June the 27th. With mixed reviews was a lack of interest beyond the hardcore fan base who showed up on its opening weekend and no real reason to presume that a second film would break out along the lines of The Bourne Supremacy or X2 X-Men United. I think we've seen the end of this incarnation of Power Rangers as someone who grew up hating the show, only to begrudgingly respect it after I had kids. this whole thing has been weird. I like the movie a lot more than I expected to. I appreciate its emphasis on character development and teen-centric melodrama, overaction, and spectacle. While I came to like this particular group of teens with attitude would have gladly seen another adventure in the sandbox. It reminded me of the time when movies like Masters of the Universe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were the exception rather than the rule. And kudos to them, including both an LGBT ranger and an autistic superhero. In what is arguably relatively progressive and inclusive superhero movie. Still, it was an origin story that spent much of its running time getting the team into shipshape for the sequel, and the odd watching a darker, somewhat violent PG-13 Power Rangers movie that outright earned the rating. The news is A, fans got one Power Rangers movie out of the deal. B, Lionsgate is doing well enough for right now. That's not going to live or die based on the performance of this would-be franchise play. Then he finishing off with this. If they can score the big stick, all eyes on me, and the potential breakout, the Hitman's Bodyguard, they can sell themselves as a reliable place for mainstream summer counter programming before the Oscar season begins again. The best thing I could say about the Lionsgate in 2017 that they didn't really need Power Rangers to go supernova any more than they need Saw Legacy to revive the franchise in October. I could be wrong, but I imagine they have to look at this the same way what Disney looked at a theoretical Tron 3. Sure, they could, and the previous ones have a fan base, but why take the risk? Universal slash Comcast Group is in a similar place with the Mummy coming as it does between the Fate and the Furious and Despicable Me. So what? That's pretty comforting for them. The most surprising thing about Lionsgate in 2017 is that I find myself actually a little sad that we probably won't get a Power Rangers 2. Would I think? Question mark. So what I read. So what I read was the critics was not kind of welcoming to the whole concept of the Power Rangers film. They thought it had so many missteps along the way, but I chimed on in and blamed it on the performance of Elizabeth Banks. She's a fine actress. Elizabeth Banks is a fine actress. She's capable of doing better crafted work in comedy and action films. So like she did the Hunger Games series that starred alongside Jennifer Lawrence, which I've seen clips of her in action. She's capable of crafting characters that way. But when she's playing over the top villain, which been overdone in that in the past, like Joel Schumacher's Batman franchise, like with Batman Forever, which both Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey reported to have differences on the set. Both of them got criticised as playing the pale imitation versions of the Riddler, and likewise with Batman and Robin, with Uma Thurman and that, which they lost their mind. This type of villain, which they totally overdone. It's like I said earlier on in this video, the final examples were Jesse Eisenberg. I've seen clips of him in action in Batman vs Superman, and it fell flat to play the convincing villain, likewise with Neil Casey in Ghostbusters reboot last year. And now Elizabeth Banks feels like that she was filming an SNL skit. That's the problem. When you get these actors in these type of iconic roles, and that some of them don't always do the roles justice in that. I thought the casting of the main heroes, the Power Rangers, was spotted on. Every single actor, like R.J. Seiler and Dacre Montgomery, which was the standouts in the film, and that which I highlighted their performances in the previous video, and the Bryan Cranston, and that which is known to Power Rangers fans as a voiceover actor from the original TV series. And as for the other two, Becky G and Naomi Scott, both of them took the characters and redefined it well, and that. And when Amy Jo Johnson saw Naomi Scott's performance as Kimberly, she gave the actress a full praise, but which both of them are quite similar to each other. Both of them are talented actresses and singers. It goes to show what magic of casting could have done, and I have no problems with them. The problem I had was with Elizabeth Banks. She was annoying, and she was a miscast, and she has served no purpose into a prestigious role like that. She should have stick to Spring Break type of comedies and other dramatic roles, and that. Like I said, any actress could do the Repulsor character and do it very well, and not like the hamming it up or phoning it in and that, which they don't feel like they're doing an SNL skit. Only other actress that could pull off the Rita Repulsa character would be somebody like Kristen Wiig, which she's a diverse and phenomenal actress in that, which she could have done a lot better job. I knew what she is in for, and to perfect the character. But as for Elizabeth Banks, she had wasted potential in the film. And I may not be alone, which I thought her performances wasn't that good, and that there'd be so many fans out there that might that be totally agree with me. I know what the media are saying about the film. They thought it could have done a lot better, and that in so many aspects of that. And the, in the whole, the film wasn't bad. It was just the whole problem with Elizabeth Banks' performance and that, and how they rendered Goldar was not great. I feel like what they should have done was they could have do what other films like Suicide Squad did, and did the slapdash reshoot, and the, start fresh with the Goldar monster, and that make him look frightening and menacing, instead of looking like a generic gooey monster that you see in the low-rated R-rated schlock horror films that they used to be released was by the Asylum, and that which they had monsters like that with no face, and that which was a lot goofy and that, but with the whole concept of Goldar, it looks awful. Who wants to buy that as a toy? I sure wouldn't. Yeah, those are the two elements that did not work as well as they hoped. It was the Elizabeth Banks, the choice of Elizabeth Banks as Rita, and the whole concept of Goldar, the monster, or whatever you would like to call it. And that was my news response of what the media had to say about the Power Rangers film. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Frankie Smales. I'm on Facebook, Blogger, and so many other media outlets. And that, if you want to talk Power Rangers, I'm on PlayStation Network and etc. And that's it. I'd love to hear what your thoughts of what you thought about the film. Do you think the press were blowing it out of proportion, giving the film a savage beating like they usually do? Or do you think the media was right? It should have worked as better, and to throw away the cliches and that. And wherever you are in the world, have a great night and a great day, and stay safe and fairly well.